So now it's time to start putting our book together. And the first thing we'll do is take our panels that we created and assemble them into the 5 different pages. Now here I have one that is already done. This is the Blue Roses panel. And you can see here, I think, here are the 3 pattern paper layers that we made, and then each of the pages has a solid green cardstock panel at the back. And in case you're wondering what color I used, it is Paper Accents. It's called Rainforest. So we're going to make an assembly like this for each one of the pages. The tabs that we create on each of the panels will wrap around to the inside of the green, and they will be covered up here when we put the pages together. So let's see how we accomplish this. So to make the green back for each one of the pages, you will need, I cut these out of 2 sheets of 12 by 12 of the green cardstock, and we start out with a section that's 9.5 inches tall by 7 3/4 inches wide. And then we'll need a couple of joining strips, and we cut those 1.5 inches by 8 and score them at 3/4. So we need 2 of these for each page. So let's just talk about what we do for this big section. What we want to do is create kind of a T, I guess you could say. And as you recall, all of our pages are 7.5 inches tall. We cut this 9.5 inches tall, and that's so that we can remove these pieces here at the top and bottom in order to make 2 tabs at the ends. So what I've done to cut these off is I've measured back 1.5 inches from the left side here, and I made a line, and then up from the bottom and cut off this 1-inch portion. And I've just kind of cut it at a slant back here. And then the same thing on the top side, back 1.5 inches in from the left, and cut off this 1 inch. So that we're left with our 2 panels that will make up our back page that are now 7.5 inches tall, like all of our star pages, and it will be 7 3/4 inch wide. So what we want to do now that we have those 2 panels cut is do a little scoring, and then we'll join. So to score, my scoreboard over here, what we just want to do is score at 1 inch and then 8.5 inches on to create the fold lines for these tabs. So 1 inch and 8.5, or you could flip it over and do both at 1 inch. But those should line up with the cuts that you made, and now we have our little tabs made. Okay. To join these, it's the same as when we joined all the background pieces in background panels in our pages. We'll just use a piece of cardstock in this case to join them. I've cut this one. Well, this one looks like I cut it just the right length, but usually I try to cut these about 8 inches along or so, just so I have a little extra room and I don't have to be precise when I go to put these 2 sections together. Then I can cut off the excess. But this time I have to pay a little more attention because I cut it just the right size. Remember, we always put them together in the sandwich formation, and make sure you give that a good burnish. And the side without the joining strip, this flush side, that's the front. So we're going to fold these tabs towards the back. So fold them all towards the back. Give them a little burnishing action. And then we need some score tape on the back of those tabs. So I've just got some wider tape here that I can put on these tabs. If you don't have wide tape like this, you could just use a couple of strips of the narrower tape. You don't have to have full coverage, but you want good coverage. And so now we have our backing panel created. So we'll set that aside for a moment while we prepare the pattern paper panels that we previously have made. So we'll need our scoreboard, and let's just get out one of our pages. This one is Fairy Flowers, and we'll set aside the first panel 1 and panel 2 for a moment and just look at the background panel. This background panel, if you recall, we cut it at the two pieces at 8 3/8, and what we want to do is in the folded position score that at 7 3/8. Get my tool out here, and then I'll put this little sign up here. So on the background panels we score at 7 3/8, and I'm just going to go slowly, and then I can get both of them at the same time here. Or you could open it up. So that's going to give us a 1-inch flap on that panel. And we'll fold that to the back. And once I get the scoreboard out of the way here, we'll give that a burnish. Now, panel 2, again fold in half. This one gets scored at 6 3/4. 6 3/4. So I'll just come up here to my 6 3/4. Flip that over and do 6 3/4 again. Again, fold these towards the back. And again, we have a 1-inch tab here to join. Now, let's look at the foreground panel. This one, we have to cut some joining strips and attach them on here, because this panel, we made it out of 12 by 12 paper, and it at 12 inches there isn't enough to turn around and make those tabs. So what I've done is I've cut 2 peach strips, and I'm trying to cut paper that kind of goes with that foreground panel, and they're cut at 8 inches long, just so that would be a little excess. And we want to score these at 1/2 inch, and then 5/8 of an inch, so that we're going to end up with a little 1/8 of an inch channel there and a 1-inch tab. So again, on this one we're scoring at 1/2 inch, and 5/8 inch. So that gives us a 1/2 inch tab, a 1/8 inch channel, and a 1 inch tab. Now, in order to fold these, what I like to do is take them, I have a nice hard square edge on my table. If you don't have a hard square edge on your table, maybe you have a block or something that you can use. And I fold first on the 1/2 inch side, and then I burnish it, and then I fold I flip it around and fold the other side so that I get that channel made. Alright, so now I have my 2 channels made. Get my tools out of the way. And what's going to happen here is that we want to add them to the back of the foreground panel, and we're going to add the 1/2 inch strip. That side is going to get attached to the back of the foreground panel. So I'm going to put some score tape on that 1/2 inch side to begin with. Find the end here. Do that on both of them. Make sure that's on there well. And turn this over to the back. And actually, I'm going to change my mind. Keep it on the front so that you can see where that 1/2 inch, where that 1/8 inch channel is. You only want to bring the edge of the panel up to the 1/2 inch. And I'm holding it back just a hair from that. Kind of like every time we've been working with the creases in the middle. I've just been holding it back so that you don't put it exactly on that line. Just a hair back. Now the purpose of having this little channel here is that by the time we wrap all the thicknesses of the paper around the edge, it gets kind of bulky, and it just, to me, it didn't look so great. So I thought of this idea so that I could kind of tidy up those edges. I like things to look tidy. And we'll trim these other two. And one more. Okay. So now you can see we have the 1 inch flaps on all of our pages. So what we want to do is add score tape to the back side of each one of these flaps. So I'll do that, and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm back, and I not only added my score tape to the back of each flap, but I hope you can see that I've kind of cut them a little bit of an angle off on each side. And then I took a minute to burnish the creases down well on each one of the panels. So here's how we're going to assemble it. We're going to start with our background piece and our second panel. And make sure when you're doing this that you get everybody lined up so that the bottoms are all at the bottom. So that's critical. So what I have here is the sandwich made with panel 2 sitting on the inside of the background panel, and the two flaps are one on top of the other here. And I'm going to remove the score tape backing from panel 2. I haven't touched the background panel yet. And I have the two creases like nestled into each other, and I'm looking at my edges on both sides and making sure everything is squared. And I'm just kind of lightly putting that score tape together. So now I have one side attached. This side is attached over here. And now I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing. I find it easiest to work in this orientation. You may find, some other orientation works better for you, but this has worked well for me. I can use my hands to keep things straight. And again, from panel 2, remove the score tape backing. Make sure everything's aligned, and then lightly put those two together. We're keeping this front panel set aside for a minute and getting our piece of the green back. And again, we'll stick this on the inside. So now you can see we're building up our sandwich here. And we're going to do this one the same way. I'm making sure that the fold is nestled in there and that things are aligned on both the top and the bottom. Removing the score tape backing, and lightly putting that together. Flipping it over. Seeing that everything is straight and flush. And lightly putting that together. Okay, so now we have the green background, the blue background that says Secret Garden, and our die cut panel. And now we're ready to add our front panel. Now again, look carefully, make sure that you've got the background oriented the same way as you want to put the front on, and just sit it in the middle here. Now, when we go to add this one on, where we attach and the fold we use to attach is the one closest to the 1-inch strip. So when we line this fold up here, we don't see the 1/8" channel. It's hidden behind there. And other than that, we're going to put this one on the same way. Again, the 1/8" channel is hidden. I'm lining up the crease that's right next to the 1-inch side with the edge of my green. And once you see that you've got everything in the right order, everything looks good, you can go ahead and burnish down these joins. Now the purpose of those 1/8" channels, you can see right here, there's quite a bit of thickness to these pages, and by having that nice little channel there, the edges are really nice and neat. Now, is that absolutely necessary? Oh, perhaps not, but that's just how I like to do it. So don't worry about these little tabs. We have a plan for those that we will try out here in a few minutes once we get all the pages put together. So I already have done this on, as you saw at the beginning of the video, for let's see, for Leafy Treetops is done, and Blue Roses is done. My sister says, "Those roses aren't blue, they're pink." I said, "I know, but that's just what I like to call it." Okay, so those two are already done. Now you can see here, I could have used peach cardstock, but I kind of forgot about it. So I put cream on, and then I just took a marker and put some peach on the edge so to match up, and the same thing with the blue here. I don't know why I forgot about that, but I did. So you'll be smarter than me. So we have those 3 pages are done. And when we go to do this page, which off the top of my head I forgot what its name is. You remember that when we created, we had to have a backing here, and when we did that, we already added the tabs on to this front panel. So this one already has its tabs. We just need to score the other 2 and then do our same joining. So let's look at the Fence and Flowers panel, which will be a little bit different. And I'm thinking about how to do this because the fence here only comes up part way, but I still want to have that 1/8 inch channel so that all the pages look the same. So I think what I'll do, and I'll try it and then we'll see how it works, is that we will score the background just like we've done with all the other ones, which was at 7 3/8 inch. Then we're going to score panel 2 at 6 3/4, and we'll come out another 1/8 of an inch, so that would be 6 7/8, and make that 1/8 inch channel on the second panel. And then we'll also do that when we create the tab here, and so that we'll get a channel kind of on top of a channel. So let me try that out, and I'll be back and we'll see if we were successful. Okay, I'm back, and it looks like this plan will work out fine. So what I've done is, just to reiterate, is the background panel I scored at 7 3/8, just like all the other ones. Now when I got to panel 2, I scored at 6 3/4, and that was right against the pattern paper line on each edge. And then I came back an 1/8 of an inch on either side to make that channel like we have been doing on the front panel. And this makes this flap here only 7/8 of an inch wide instead of 1 inch wide, but that's plenty. And so we'll still go ahead and put our panel 2 and background panels together first. But the thing we'll remember is that when we put panel 2 against the background, we don't want to see that 1/8 inch channel. It's kind of hidden there, just like when we've been doing the first panel before. So I'll just take my tape backing off, lightly put that together, flip around to this side. And again, we don't want to see that 1/8 inch channel. Making sure everything is straight. Putting that together gently. Okay. And now we'll just join these like we did before to our green backing panel. Nothing special about this. And then finally we'll add the front fence panel on, lining up the channels on either side. And that will complete the Fence and Flowers panel.